Sure. I love this question. I think this is super interesting to think about. And I think that we're living at an interesting time because it is likely that within our sort of current generation, the people who are currently alive on the earth, we will be seeing significant extension of life beyond 100 years. I'm not sure I will, but I think at least, some of the teenagers I see playing at the park will, which is exciting. And, I think that human beings are incredibly resilient in the way that they build their lives. And, we think back hundreds of years and thousands of years and just see the sort of spectrum of ways that humans have lived. It really can inform us that we are very flexible and we are resilient to change. That being said, living in today's world, I think that we have such an interesting spectrum of life choices already. There is sort of, a standard, you grow up, you go to school, you meet somebody, you have kids, 30s, whatever, you buy a house, you have your career, you retire when you're 60 or 70, and then you are in retirement. I think that standard already is having very fuzzy edges between the ages of when you're doing what. So I certainly think that as we learn to sort of manipulate our biology a little more instead of kind of being slaves to it, that we are going to have this freedom of choice to engage in life in a different way. And I think that will, for one example, I think that, instead of growing up and going to school and sort of picking what you want to do and having your career, I think that you'll see more people who are more interested in and flexible to the idea of having multiple careers over the duration of their lifetime. And I think that you'll start seeing a structure where people are planning and living in a way to allow that. So maybe when you're 38 or, 48, you go back to school and sort of completely switch directions and say, you know what, I'm done being a scientist now. I think I'm going to go into photography and try to become a fine arts photographer and see where that takes me. I think that's totally reasonable. And there are people who already have done that and have been successful at it. I'm sure there's plenty of people who haven't been as successful at it as well. But I think that we're going to have the ability and the flexibility to do that. And I think that there's going to be more room for that as we move forward as well. I know there's obviously a lot of news out there and journalism around the sort of older population of people wanting to find work and having a hard time. And I don't know if that's restricted to tech or what. I grew up in the Bay Area, so I see a lot of that news. But I think that this is going to be something across different areas of work, and that as we age, we're going to be more valuable in terms of people that have more experience and have more have seen more things and learned more things and have a different ability to function in a workplace and have a different set of resources to add to that workplace that arguably is probably better than, a 32-year-old person or a 40-year-old person who's maybe juggling a family. And which leads me to my second example, which is that of the family structure. I think now people are beginning their family somewhere between 25 and 35 usually, and having kids and buying homes. And also it's sort of a difficult time because that's also when your career is really ramping up for a lot of people. I certainly see that a lot being 30 now and in my career with friends who are going through that. And, I think that it creates sort of a lot of stress for people that want to do great things professionally, but then feel this pressure that they have to have children now. They have this little time window where it's acceptable and works with their biology and all that stuff. And I think that as we move forward and we're able to sort of know more about how our bodies work, and this is more moving into the sort of fertility zone, which I don't know a ton about. I'm more working, on the DNA side and looking more long-term down towards the end of life. But certainly as we understand more about our genes and how they work and about our bodies, and that certainly with that is going to be fertility. And for females especially, I think that that's going to be really important in finding ways to really lessen that pressure and that burden of feeling the need to sort of have kids in this 5-year window when you're 30 to 35 or whatever. And already, again, we're seeing the beginnings of that with a lot of people in the tech community who, companies like Google and Facebook that are supporting, young women freezing their eggs so that they don't have to, quote unquote, worry about having kids when they're in these very highly productive professional years of their life. Certainly, if you end up doing that and then you do choose to have kids later via in vitro fertilization or whatever, there currently are a lot of health risks that go with that. And certainly carrying a child when you're 40 is not the same as carrying a child, in a pregnancy when you're 30. So I think that those are things that as we move forward, we're going to learn more about and have better ways to support people who want to make alternative choices, which I think is also great. I think I'm a proponent of being able to choose and feeling free to choose and living a life that feels fulfilling and satisfying and free. And so I think that we're going to be seeing a lot more of that as we learn more and build these technologies to assist people in doing that.